Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I'm here with Doublelift. I'm going to do another grilled with him. It's actually another, I think this is like maybe the third person I've done a second grilled with. I think, I'm not sure. The first NA person I've done a repeat grilled with anyway. And so the first one I did was a long time ago when I knew really next to nothing about League of Legends, aside from stuff I'd read online, basically. And so I'm hoping this time we can get like a little bit more in depth into some topics. And so I've come prepared. So the first place I want to start with you, let's just jump right in the deep end, okay? This bottom lane that you have with Chauster, when you originally had it, okay, this is basically how you got into CLG, like for real, you know, you got to be the AD, and then from the way I've pieced it together, it sounds like they let you be the AD, but like Chauster was going to sort of like tell you how to play AD. Like he's going to tell you, like, don't do that, do this, do that. And what people think is that you just had to just take it, and whatever he told you to do, you just had to do. Is this accurate? Was it more of an even relationship? What do you think?
No, that's 100% accurate. And actually, I think that's one of the reasons why we're not as good now as we were before, is like, when he was really, back then he was super confident in his support skills, and he was really aggressive, and he was like a playmaker, and so he was like a clutch support player. He was like, he knew that he was on top, and so he would tell me everything, and when I would fuck up, he'd be like, you fucked up, blah blah, do this next time. I'd be like, okay, like I can't fuck up anymore, the pressure's on me, because Chauster's leading me, and I don't want to disappoint like the person who is like, you know, the dominant laner. And now, because he was uncomfortable with support and stuff, he didn't really want to take lead, and so now we kind of share like responsibility, I guess, and that makes like a lot of arguments, and you can't really like, resolve stuff when all you're doing is like bickering back and forth every day. Like, how do we approach this situation? If you had a leader, you'd have a clear cut, like, we're gonna do this. So I don't know, when I talk to like Tabe from Royal, he says even though like he's like the shot caller for his team, in terms of bot lane, Uzi tells him everything, and he just listens. He plays like a submissive role.
That's something I wanted to ask about, because I was going to ask if like the relationship had changed, because everyone sees Chauster's support now and it hasn't been very good in the second generation of it, you know. So the problem is, it actually makes sense, okay, as to why it would work before if he had all the knowledge and he was kind of telling you how he wanted you to play, okay? Because I always think of it like this, like either the AD makes the support, like, so you're talking about like Uzi is like a really dominant player, he's obviously going to tell his support like what he needs from him, whereas if you have someone like a MadLife, he's probably going to tell the AD what to do instead, you know, because it's like how the relationship's going to go. So first time around, it makes sense, okay, that it would be Chauster making Doublelift and telling him how he's going to play within this unit that they're going to have of the bot lane. So then when Chauster comes back the second time, and now he isn't actually very good at his role, the support role, was it just him not being as good at the support role that meant that now you're having more say, or you're arguing over stuff? Is it that from playing with the other supports in between, you've now become more assertive in terms of what you think you should do, or what you should do in that sense? Like, are you not the same person who just takes everything Chauster says?
Yeah, exactly. That's I because I switched to like Loco Doco and Aframu as my support. Both those players went from AD to support, and so they were very submissive. They had no idea how to play the role, and like I had to basically just like start taking command, like call the shots. We're gonna trade on the CS. We're gonna do this, and then after this, we're gonna do this, and I would plan it out. And then I went back to Chauster, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna go back to how we used to be. And he's like, I don't know how to play bot lane anymore, because bot lane changed a lot. And so then we kind of like shared responsibility, and I wanted him to take the more dominant role and tell me exactly what to do like before. But now we just kind of met in the middle. And another problem is that Chauster's trying to get back to how he was before. But like, let's say this is how he was before. Like, other supports in the world have gone to this level, and he's just trying to climb to like the level that he was at before, when like there's like MadLife who's like up here, and you have to set your like sights really high and try to be world class. But he's like in repair mode right now, and that's fine, because it does take a lot of time and a lot of experience to be good. Like, MadLife was only good pretty recently, like in the last like 6 months or so, he became like a god.
So when you actually think of the old bot lane with Chauster, at this point, there's been so many stories I've heard from interviews, and I want to know, like, the no bullshit version. Like, realistically, how good was the bot lane, and what was it good at? Because we hear all these stories like, oh, in Korea, we never lost a single game, and it sounds like the typical like CLG, like talking themselves up. Like, were you really that dominant as a bot lane? Like, what do you think of when you say you were dominant?
Yeah, like, there's so much to talk about. Like, when I think back to that bot lane, like, yeah, we didn't hard carry like every game. But I think the thing we were known for was, especially in Korea, was being really lane dominant. Because back then, and even now, I feel like Korean bot lanes and just most bot lanes in general, they just want to farm up and split even. But like we were really lane dominant. That's why like I'm like the only competitive Urgot player, and like I played a lot of Graves for a long time because I just want to smash lane and just kill, get fed, then carry the game that way. And then like in season 2, I kind of adopted like this farm play style because people got better and I couldn't just constantly be killing them in North America. But like when I was playing in OGN and stuff in Korea, I distinctly remember this time when like even after we lost to Frost, right? This is when Woong and MadLife were bot lane. We lost to them, but I smashed their bot lane so hard that the day after, Woong messaged me on League because I was playing Korean solo queue, like frustrated that we lost. He's like, hey, do you guys want to practice 2v2s? And I was like, no, like I don't want to. And that was kind of mean because I just didn't want them to get better. But yeah, we were really, really lane dominant. And even though like we might not have been like the most impactful bot lane in the world, because that's like a really sweeping statement to make, like nobody beat us in lane. And like everyone in North America, the general consensus was like, we smashed lane every game.
So then is it too simple a question to say like should you have just kept that bot lane? Because if on paper, right, you had the best bot lane in the world, is it really that it's just Chauster not playing support that made him not able to? Or do you think with how bottom lane has changed anyway, you would have been in a similar position you're in now if you just kept the bot lane from then till now?
So CLG has a big problem with like thinking. We don't do that very much. So okay, here was the train of thought, if there was one, was Chauster thought that he had, and he was right, he did teach me bot lane very well. I'm like a reflection of what he would have been if he was an AD carry. And like, basically, he's like, I taught you so well that you can train a support. And I feel he felt at that time that he was not impactful because he went from being like the best and like everyone just kind of caught up to him. And he was never a playmaking support. He played like Lulu and he would shit on lane, but he wouldn't like make clutch big plays like MadLife does, And he's like, I'm so tired of not being able to help the team because the rest of the map is like failing, like our jungle, our mid, our top is just not doing very well. He's like, I'm gonna go jungle, I'm gonna be able to help everyone then, including you, and I'm gonna be able to like, even if your bot lane isn't that good, maybe I can gank for you and stuff like that and you'll still win. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's get Loco Doco. Like he seems like he's cool, and like everything just went to shit because instead of fixing what the actual problem was, right? Okay, the top side of the map is failing. Maybe we should do Russell chains there. We did the worst thing, which is break up what's good, and like just fucking mix everything up for no reason.
Because one of the strange things was the Loco Doco period. Most people would say that's like the worst support you've played with,
and yet
that was when you were actually maybe at your peak in terms of in game. You were like pentakilling every game. It seemed like.
Yeah, that was like the IPL 5 like MLG Dallas time, like right after Worlds, where like everyone knew that I was super good and like I was like, damn, I'm so fucking good. I was just talking shit all the time on Twitter and stuff. And like it was fun. And yeah, I think after watching Worlds, like Worlds has changed my view on like teams because I get to actually like face-to-face talk with real teams from other areas and like I get to get like the real like nitty-gritty, why are you guys so good and like why does this team suck? And it's true, like even though Loco Doco was a weak link, he accepted that he was a weak link, and we respected each other as teammates. We were like, yeah, Loco, you suck, and like we tried to make him better. But the rest of us four, we were kind of like a group of mutually respected players. We all kind of got on the same train. We were like, Loco, you suck, but like we're good. And if you respect your teammates, even if you have like one person who's kind of like the odd man out and who's trying to catch up, just having that mutual respect is so important. I think that's why, even though Cloud9 isn't the most individually skilled team, as you can see from Worlds, like they got shit on every game by Fnatic, every lane. It doesn't matter. They respect each other, they trust each other as teammates, and they like work together to like. That's why they dropped 3 games in one season,
Because one of the interesting things was you after you were with Chauster the first time, and then you played with Loco Doco, you played with Afromu. Both of these players, the most polite way to say it is they had problems adapting to being a support or supporting what you need in a support. But you were still playing very good during this period of time. And so when you went to this All-Star break, you got to play with Xpecial, who's a veteran support player, okay? And in the interviews, you kind of hyped it up and said, like, this is a really great bot lane we have. And you were also saying stuff like, playing with him had opened your eyes as to what playing with a really good support can be like for you, okay? Like, what was the experience of playing with Xpecial? Like, what was prompting you to say that? Like, what kinds of things would he do, or what was his style that helped with you?
Well, obviously my like online persona is really prone to like hyperbole, where I just like really, really blow something up but I did feel that way. I did feel like Xpecial was amazing because I switched from Aphromoo to Xpecial. Yeah, about Aphromoo. I felt like he was like a really steady player. I could work with him. It wasn't my choice to be like, Aphromoo, you suck, get out. He wanted to, and I understand, he wanted to go back to his old life because he felt like being an LCS player was too stressful and draining, and like it wasn't what he wanted to do. And I respect that. I was like, that's fine, you know, if that's what you want to do, if you want to go back to streaming and having your own life, then yeah. But I would have stayed with Aphromoo because I felt like a good connection with him, you know, like we can work together. I respect him. He's a good player. I'm a good player. We can work together.
So what was the actual experience of playing with Xpecial like? What was making you think that it was so good?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I first went to the Chris bootcamp and I was playing with Xpecial, the first thing that struck out to me was like, I don't need to say anything to this guy. After playing with Loco and Aphromoo for like months and months and months, I played with Xpecial for one game, and I was about to open my mouth to tell him to do something, and he just did it before I could say anything. And I was like, whoa, he like knows exactly what to do in like pretty much 90% of situations. And in the 10%, it's just a stylistic difference of like, oh, he's used to playing with Chaox, well, I'm used to playing with my support, and like we choose different ways to like approach a situation. So then we just talked it out, and he was like really understanding, and I was like, wow, this is like the perfect support because he knows what to do. Like he's independent. I can focus on myself for once, and I felt that's also like one of the biggest reasons why I think I made like big plays at All Stars and I was really clutch or whatever, is because I don't have to micromanage a support. I can trust my support to do what he needs to do, and like I can focus on my own game instead. I felt like really liberated in that way. And I don't know, I like Xpecial. I don't think he likes me that much. It's kind of bad. It's a bad relationship, okay? But I really like Xpecial and I respect his skill a lot. Every time I play against TSM as well, I have troubles laning against Xpecial. But against other bot lanes, I don't feel the pressure.
Did playing with him change your perspective on Wildturtle or Chaox in terms of how good they are as ADs?
Yeah, for the majority of the season, I disrespected Turtle like in my head because when I play against TSM, I don't feel like it's Turtle really doing anything. Xpecial is like just really, really, really good. And
what is he good at? What do you think does he stand out at?
He doesn't make very many mistakes, and he's a clutch player too. And I value being a clutch player a lot because I feel like if you can just have one game-changing crescendo per tournament, it'll change so much, and it'll like it's like one game-changing crescendo versus like the Chauster crescendo that, you know, like it's very also like in terms of team morale, it's like a big thing. And so in my head when I played against Xpecial and Turtle, I was like, I played with Xpecial, he's so good, Turtle must suck because Xpecial carries him. And that's kind of how I thought until Worlds. Then when I went to Worlds, I was like, Turtle's actually pretty good. You know, they got decent together.
Because I wanted to ask you about Chaox, because you're one of the people who came out and said like you didn't like his comments about saying he was the MVP of season 2 or whatever. So what I want to ask is, you had this really good bot lane during the whole period when Chaox was winning all these lands with TSM, okay? So as playing with Xpecial, does that make you think like Chaox was overrated? Was he actually a good AD?
He was top 3 in NA during season 2, but that doesn't say very much. Because in terms of like, you can be top 3 in NA, but if I'm number 1 by this much, then like I don't respect Chaox at all. I think other ADs can't really say, like Cop can't say like talk shit or whatever. But because I was in the position in season 2 to like talk shit, I just did. I don't actually hate Chaox. I just did it because I thought it was funny. And I think it's also really stupid that he brags about being the season 2 MVP because he was the season 2 playoff MVP for like a series of matches or something like that. And I don't know, I find that like a lot of stories like inside the pro scene just make Chaox not seem like a great person. But like now, obviously, now that Worlds is coming up and it's all in the past, like I can still hang out with him and stuff. I never thought that he was very good because in season 2 TSM never won tournaments, and I was like, wow, Chaox, what a great performance by Chaox. It was always like, damn, Dyrus is pretty fucking good, or like, damn, Reginald is the best mid in North America. You know, it was always that.
Because I actually heard a story, okay, that said, and this isn't just based off that Game Cribs thing either, I heard a story legitimately that Doublelift got offers to join TSM during 2012, and if you'd wanted to, you could have basically had that position. You could have been the AD carry. Is this just complete nonsense? Was it ever even a possibility? Like, you actually thought about it?
Yeah, when Chaox was a big problem for TSM in the months like leading up to kicking him, because you don't just kick him spontaneously. It's a big recurring problem. So yeah, I did get an offer, and I didn't really consider it because at that time I didn't really think Xpecial was anything great, and I felt like CLG, we always throw around the word CLG potential, and like we had come back from Korea, we're gonna stomp on NA, and then obviously that didn't really happen, and we just thought TSM was this much better than us, but we had the ability to grow past that.
Okay. When we were talking before about when you had Chauster as your bot lane partner, when I remember that period of time, because people know this storyline of like, oh, Chauster trained you in how to play the position, or he told you what he wanted you to do, and he was a very good support at the time. It makes it sound like, oh, Doublelift's someone who, what he needs from his support is his support has to babysit him and tell him what to do, and he'll kind of just like, he'll mechanically be really brilliant and he can carry the game, but he needs someone to like direct him a bit. Was this true in that point? Is this true now still at all?
I was really dumb before, but you don't become good at the game without being smart as well. So I think like people will always hang on. The people who like think negatively of me will always hang on to stuff that I did in the past. Like season 1, I face check stuff. Like, haha, Doublelift face check. And like season 2, I was really dumb, and all I did was farm and split push and stuff. People are like, haha, that guy's doublelifting. He's just like split pushing while the base is dying. And if you actually look at how I'm playing during season 3, like I don't make those horrible decisions, and like I still have the ability to like clutch out a 1v2 or like whatever it is. But people will always like look at the past and be like, he hasn't changed, look at that, and just use horrible confirmation bias. But I think I've grown a lot as a player, especially because I had to separate from Chauster and like actually understand reasoning, like how to like analyze the situation and explain it to my support. So I've grown a lot in that regard.
If you had to describe it just in an abstract sense, we're not talking about a specific support player here, but what you need from a support to make your play the best it can be, what kind of things do you need from a support?
I think to be the best that I can be, like ideally, I would just want my support to be independent of me, because when I watch Asian teams play, the support and the AD are always sticking together, which I think is wrong. I think the support, obviously you dual lane with the AD as the game starts, but as the game goes later, the AD is just like a separate carry, just like an AP, just like a top laner. The AD is like its own entity, and if you need support from your support, you should, he should come. But like your mid and your top can also need help from your support. So I just need him to know exactly what to do without having me to babysit him, because I play the best when I can trust my support to do whatever he wants, and like I'm gonna do whatever I want, and like what I want to do is like be really impactful throughout the game.
One of the comments that I heard in an interview I did actually that made it seem like that scenario before, where people thought that you needed the support to kind of tell you what to do and what not to do, was when I did an interview with Froggen. He said that every time they ever beat you in scrims, it was because you just like walk out into every guy's CC. You just walk out and they own you immediately. Like it's almost like you run into it. Is he just exaggerating this? How would you evaluate yourself on this skill now?
Oh yeah, if you had to rate me in terms of like ability to dodge crowd control, like I am so bad. I'll have games where I just walk into everything, and I'll just have games where my positioning is perfect, and it's just, I don't know how to turn it on or off, It's just like a switch that I can't control. Some games I just walk into a cocoon like against Cloud9 and I just throw the game, and then some games, I'll clutch it out and like dodge everything. That's something that I'm actually really going to focus on during season 4, because I feel like my weakest point is positioning right now. Like I used to think like, oh, my positioning is the best, but you can't think that way.
Since we've talked about like support role with you, if we were to do a hypothetical, okay, and so for whatever reason we can just put you with a support, so you could have say N-rated, or you could have Edward, or you could have Xpecial.
Oh, God, no.
If we were to put you with one of these guys who people have considered like the best support in the West or whatever at some point in time, like how would it work out?
If you could put me with MadLife, we would.
It has to be MadLife?
It has to be MadLife.
Okay.
I just think, well, first thing is mutual trust and respect, really important, Like if you put me with like N-rated, I would be like, is this guy good? I can't tell. And if he'd fuck up, I'd be like, maybe he's not that good,
Mm-hmm.
Impressions are important, actually. And like if I play with MadLife, first off, we'd shit on lane, just like before. And second off, I know MadLife's gonna make a clutch play at some point. If I'm having a bad game, let's say I make some mistakes, just like everyone makes mistakes, I could trust MadLife and be like, this guy's going to potentially carry me this game. And it's okay if I make a mistake. But if I'm playing with like a passive whatever, the difference is if I fuck up, I'm like, oh my god, we're doomed. But yeah, it would be MadLife.
Okay, the only problem with that though is that it seems to me like MadLife has like the relationship you had when you were with Chauster before, where he's like the god of support, so his AD has to do whatever he says. And so if you were playing with MadLife, wouldn't MadLife be like, what the fuck's this guy doing? Like,
if I played with MadLife, because he's a better player than I am, I would respect his decisions and I would let him lead me to whatever he wants. But also at the same time, you can't always be micromanaging someone. Even though you have to have a leader in like lane in like the first 10 or 20 minutes of the game, as the game goes on, he should trust me enough to think like Doublelift's pretty good at the game. He should know what to do. I want to focus on my thing. He focuses on this thing. So you kind of drift apart from like that leader, like submissive role after a while. But yeah, I think for a bot lane to function well, one person has to lead, and generally that means that one person has to be the better player.
because the thing is, people are going to think when they hear this answer and this question, okay, oh, well, that's just hypothetical. You know, he could never actually play with MadLife. But I actually heard that you had real offers from Korea, or you were planning on maybe going and being a player in Korea. I think it was after season 2 when you were going to kick Voyboy out. It was like, that was one of the options on the table. Is this true? This
is true. I was considering going to Korea because I felt like the region is the most competitive. I can shine the most. Like, I can grow the most as a player. But there's not a lot of money in Korea. There's also a lot of problems. Language barrier being like the biggest one, culture difference, and because Korea is the most competitive region, there's the up of, you know, more competition, better improvement. You know, you kind of get this, but the other thing is, what are the odds that you're gonna make it to Worlds? I mean, just look at CJ Frost. Like, these guys are obviously very good. They didn't make it to Worlds because, well, tough luck. There's 10 really good Korean teams that are just as good as you are. So, you know, being in a less competitive region like NA, or I can just say that outright because obviously we did the poorest at Worlds. You have a higher chance of making it to Worlds, and Worlds is really important to me because that's when you get to show the entire world instead of just your region how good you are.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to ask you about, like, I've put this down as like the philosophy of AD carry. Okay, that'll sound like a grand term, but actually what made me think about it was I was like doing some research on Uzi, and it said about how in interviews he always states about how he has like a very distinct idea of how AD carry should be played, and it's actually quite extreme. Like, he thinks it, like, the AD should be the main carry in the whole team. It should be like, he should be like the main damage dealer. The other lanes are there for different roles. You know, the support has a specific role in the context of the AD. It sounds like he doesn't agree that there can be like a variety of different ways of playing it. There's like one perfect way, and this is how it has to be. And if you look at his style of play, it makes sense to a degree. Okay, what is Doublelift's philosophy of AD? Do you have something like this? Because you were talking before about how you didn't agree with how the support and the AD in Korea stay together. Do you have something in mind when you think that this is the way it should be played, this role?
I don't think there's any way that I think it should be played, because I play like a very wide variety. Like, I was known for like Caitlyn, Vayne, and Ezreal, who are all very different. Then I played like Urgot and Graves, and like I tend to be pretty versatile with my champion choices because I play everything. But at the end of the day, Uzi is actually right in one sense, and that is he sticks by the way that he thinks you should play. And that's the best thing you can do, is you think one way and the entire team gets behind you. They all think one way and you get really good at that way. And even though people are like, Royal's just like CLG but better, it's like, yeah, they're like, our style was maybe not the best way to play the game, but it is a way to play the game. Protecting the AD carry is a way to play the game, and they're so good at it that they're in the finals now. So there's not a single way to play the game. It's just how good are you at the style that you play. And maybe there's like some rock, paper, scissors going in there, like style mismatches and stuff. But even just like listening to Monte Cristo say like, oh, all you have to do is split push against China, like, if they're better than you, they will win, no matter what their style is.
So you actually said, after you watched Uzi play the OMG series, you wrote in your blog saying like, I learned so much from him. Like, what kind of things actually stood out that you thought like, oh, I didn't know that, or that's an interesting way to play the game?
I never thought about, because one thing stood out to me about Uzi is that in an interview he said, Tabe said in an interview, I made several mistakes that game. When I play generally in tournaments with Uzi, he makes none. And I was like, damn, I never thought about like just making no mistakes. Like, I can't remember the last tournament game I've ever played where I made no mistakes. I kind of just think about it like, did I have a good game? Like, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And if what I did wrong wasn't like that big of a deal, I'm just like, shit happens, you know? But then in that series, I watched Uzi play, and I watched that game over and over again. I was like, what mistakes did this guy make? Did he waste some time? Did he waste 10 seconds here? Did he like buy the wrong item here? Did he like miss a lot of CS at a crucial time? Like, no, he made 0 mistakes. I watched it a million times. Like, and that's how you become the best, is by making 0 mistakes. I never thought about it like that.
So you referenced before, actually, this style that they have that they call raising the poppy, where the idea is you just make sure Uzi's okay and then he'll carry the late game, okay? Which everyone remembers as the famous like protect Doublelift style that everyone in CLG claimed wasn't actually the style being used. Like, no, we all our laners do well and stuff. Clearly that was the style that CLG used at some point in time. Like, they decided, okay, this is our main carry and we're going to go with this. Like, why didn't it work for CLG?
The difference between them and us back then is we didn't accept that was our style, and we didn't try to make it really, really, really good. We didn't try to get super good at Protect the Doublelift. Protect the Doublelift was actually just a joke started by the internet, like, haha, that's what CLG does. And we're like, no, that's not what we do. We were actually like offended, you know, like, no, clearly, like, you know, we can have threats from this, and like, we're gonna prove you wrong. And we shouldn't have taken it like that. We should have just been like, oh, that's what we're good at? Okay, like, do the royal, like, pick like this, do this, make sure that the AD carry gets this strong, and like, if this isn't your style, then find a style that's right for you. But obviously, like, I think right then the AD centric style was the right style for us, and we didn't accept it. We didn't all get behind that idea and try to be the best at it.
Because this is something I wanted to ask about to connect a couple of the topics we talked about here, was when I was thinking about Voyboy, because I did an interview with Voyboy, okay, one of the problems that he felt that he had when he was in CLG was the idea that, you know, he came from a team where he was like a key member of the team and things were built around him to some degree, and when he came into CLG, he was just like another guy, and they were sort of like, yeah, you do your stuff up here, you know, like we do some things down here, and the real star in our team is Doublelift, okay. So if that's the case, it's almost like you're already putting all these resources towards your position. So then, first of all, why not just embrace this style like you were saying there? Like, what was holding your team back from just saying, okay, Doublelift's going to be the guy who's going to carry the game for us. We have to build everything towards that. And then the thing I want to connect to that was, we've talked about all these support issues. Why not just recruit a really good support?
Okay, well, to answer the second question first, because it's the most easy, North America has a really big problem with lack of talent. And this comes from solo queue being really trolly. I mean, like, okay, so there's a couple reasons. Streaming is one. When streamers stream solo queue, they tend to try to be entertaining, troll, not take it too seriously. If you're super tryharding in solo queue, you're not very entertaining to watch. It's just like, oh, challenger player playing solo queue, like, not saying anything, focused completely on the game. So, I mean, there's just not a lot of talent breeding from solo queue. Eventually, when you get to Diamond 1, everyone just starts trolling, and the level of play is so much lower than it is in like Korea or China. So it is really just hard to find a support. And if you're talking about poaching supports, then you get into contracts, like how much money is it going to cost, like team, whatever, like how close that person is to their team, loyal, stuff like that. So, and then to answer, what was your first question? Oh yeah, the first question about why didn't we just embrace it?
Yeah, you were kind of halfway between the two, it seemed like.
Yeah. Okay, so...
Like, was there anyone in the team who specifically thought, like, no, we shouldn't go that route, like, I'm philosophically against that?
We never talked about it. We never talked about what are we going to get really good at? What style are we going to do? Because who's going to bring that up? Am I going to go to the team and be like, hey guys, I want the team to be built around me. That's so cocky and arrogant, you know? That actually, like, that actually is not how I am. I'm very, like, I am a team player. I'm not, like, my online persona is very different from, like, how I interact with my team. I don't want to come off like that because it builds bad relationships with your teammates. So who's gonna do it? I mean, is Chauster gonna do it? He's like, we need to be a bot lane centric team. Like, no, he's playing support with me. And then the other players on the team, it hurts your pride when you say like, oh, okay, let's not focus on me. I'm not very important. What's important is Doublelift. So what actually you need is a sixth man, a coach to tell the team, okay, this is your guys' strength. You're gonna work on this, and that's what Asian teams have. But we don't have that infrastructure in NA, so it's really hard to it is really hard to improve. That's why NA is so far behind. It's hard for the teams to improve and lock something down. But now it's changing, you know. There's more analysts, there's more coaches in NA.
Another AD, okay, along with this line of like how to play the game. If we're thinking of this style, another person along with you and Uzi, who used to be labeled as like this, they just protect him, was Imp. He actually used to get the same treatment because before we knew how good any of the other players were, everyone thought it was just Imp and 4 guys trying to support him, okay. What do you think about the fact that at this tournament, I didn't think Imp actually played that bad. It just looked like Cos' team fell apart. Like he couldn't win, basically. is there not something that worries you about the idea that even if the AD does really well, he can just be neutralized if the rest of his teammates can't do well enough?
Well, it doesn't worry me because I always trust my teammates. I'll never be like, oh, my team is going to play bad and now our style isn't going to work. I'm like, my team is going to play good and our style is going to work, and this is the steps we're going to take to make it work. Because, you know, if Imp didn't go in this tournament thinking that Dade was going to suck so bad that he couldn't carry. Imp came in the tournament thinking Dade was going to play well because he's my team's mid. He's MVP Ozone's mid. He's my teammate. I trust this guy to do well. And it doesn't worry me because no matter what your style is, if your team fails, then you lose. It doesn't really matter. Like, even if you're like a Chinese team, if you're like a different Korean team, if you're an American team, if you can't trust your teammates to play well, you're never going to win.
Is having a style of the mid being like the best player in your team, is this style not maybe like the hardest style? Because when I thought back over the history of League of Legends, okay, the majority of the successful teams who win the tournaments, almost none of them have like a dominant AD carry. Like, okay, I think World Elite might be the only one I can think of where like the AD was like the real star of the whole team. Even MVPL's only won one tournament basically. Like the others, in general, a lot of them actually have players who are just okay at the AD carry position. He's more of like an even player.
Yeah. I think mid is so strange because mids can look really, really good because it's a 1v1. And when it comes to 1v1s, the most important thing is counterpicking and being versatile. You know, like, just look at Froggen. Like, Froggen had a decent season. He would have had, like, the best season of his life if he just dropped his pride and played Zed. He hates playing Zed. I don't know why. There's a lot of players that do that. They don't play what's OP because they're not versatile. They don't want to. They have, like, reasons that they don't want to do that. And mid is just such a counterpick based lane. If you look at White versus Peke, I would honestly say like Peke is a better mid player than White.
Sure.
Like in terms of mechanics, decision making, versatility. Maybe not versatility because I take the back last one. White's advantage is that he's versatile enough to make Peke look like shit because he has a list of counterpicks. This is what Peke plays. This is what I'm going to counterpick him with. That's why Peke got crushed 4 games in a row and he looked terrible. And White looks so good. So. Like mid-centric, it has really high ups, really low downs. That's, you know, just look at Fnatic. I think if you focus a lot in your bot lane, because there's 2 people in that lane, it's harder to get countered. And you can switch your bot lane to mid, you can switch your bot lane to top to 2v1. So it's a much more stable approach to the game.
Okay, because a player that I wanted to bring up now, we talked before about does Doublelift have like a philosophy on AD carry? So I want to talk to you for a while about Genja, okay? Because almost everything you ever say about Genja makes him sound like he's an idiot, like he doesn't know what he's doing, like he's just doing everything wrong, you know. Why is he doing that? It doesn't make sense. I mean, why do you say this?
So even though I think if you focus your strategy around your bot lane, it's like good and stable and it's a way you can work around it. At the same time, your bot lane can suck really bad, like Genja and Voidal. I don't even know who that guy is. You can suck really bad, and as long as you pick the right champions and you split even in lane, you won't look too bad. That's why Genja can build stupid shit like Trinity Force, 2 BF swords on Varus or something. Like, I don't even remember what his build was. That's how dumb it was. And like, I hate efficiency and like subpar. Just, you have to just think about it. Like, you could be 20-30% more impactful in the game if you had just built these items, but he just like doesn't care. Like, everyone's like, haha, Genja doesn't care. And like, you should care. You should care the most about World Championships. You should care about every game that you play to get better. It seems like he's so stubborn that he doesn't care about getting better. He just wants to be Genja. That's like his thing. Like, I'm Genja and I build weird shit.
So do you not buy the storyline about Genja is like, you know, he innovated so much stuff in Season 2 and, you know, he has a different way of thinking about the game? I mean, it sounds like you don't buy that. You just think he just has the wrong way of thinking about the game.
I think if you're so insane that you just like want to be weird and do new stuff all the time, once in a while you'll strike gold and you'll find something new. I can't think of anything recent that Genja has come up with that has like blown everyone away or like changed anything. But yeah, maybe earlier when he was really like, when people were stuck in the same like loop of thinking the same way and he thought differently, he did bring like Urgot and he did bring like a lot of stuff to the competitive scene. But since then, it's like, he's not innovative. I think he's just like a subpar player.
When we talk actually about builds though, the famous one everyone brings up is that he actually quite regularly will build 3 Doran's blades. people say that as though like, oh, what an idiot, how could you possibly think that? Is there any logic to it? I mean, I've heard that he just does it because he just, right that second, he just wants like a little bit more like farming potential or whatever. Like, is it really just totally retarded and you should be going for a finished item, or you should be going towards like your BF sword or whatever?
He is, that 3 Doran's blade does have advantage, and the advantage is that you're gonna win lane with 3 Dorans, because if you think about it, if you had infinite item slots, you would just buy Doran's blades on every base spec. You would just have like 100 Doran's blades, and it's really, really cost efficient item. But the thing is, you don't have infinite item slots, so as it gets to like 20 or 30 minutes in, you have to sell those Doran's blades. So Doran's blade is actually, to me, an investment in the early game, because in the early game, your item slots don't matter. It's as if you have infinite item slots for these Doran's blades, but as the game goes longer and longer, you're like, oh, like I have to sell a Doran's blade to get like a Negatron cloak. So it's just an investment in laning phase to me. And Genja, as much as I don't like his builds and play, he is actually a pretty smart laner. He does some smart stuff. He's good, experienced, and he smashes lane with 3 Doran's blades. So that's good. That's good reasoning. It's one thing he does well.
I want to put a theory to you then about when people who think Genja's good, other players who I've talked to, one of the things they say is that they always mention that he has like this really good positioning in team fights. Like he knows exactly where to position himself, because he even has like a different philosophy about how to team fight. Okay, instead of like most ADs are trying to build up damage and then just do auto attacks over and over and over, supposedly he actually prefers to use spells and then just put a couple of auto attacks in. But in doing so, if you pick someone like Varus, it allows you to be like further out of range. Okay, so the idea is, even in a normal team fight, if Doublelift's fighting a team fight, okay, with Vayne for example, the other team can think, okay, he's the target, we'll all see if we can kill him while the team fight's going on. But if Genja's a mile away just firing off those the blades or whatever, like what can you even do?
So this is why I think he's really low impact. This is actually perfect. It's like he'll play champions like Varus or Ashe where he sits really far back, he gets his spells off, and he doesn't die. And because his philosophy is like, I never want to die in a team fight, he doesn't ever want to bait CC, he doesn't want to like draw attention or aggro, I call it. And so like when you watch me team fight, for example, sometimes I'll fuck up my positioning and I'll die. But a lot of the times I get out of the team fight with 20% HP. And that basically means that my impact on that team fight was huge. I not only drew aggro and made them dive me, but I probably soaked up CC, summoner spells, flashes, and they had to take out 1800 of my HP. And it's like, so my impact in that teamfight was so huge. I soaked up damage, CC, and took aggro, attention away from my teammates. And when I watch players like Genja play, it's kind of frustrating because I see them stand so far back that it's like, team, please carry me. I'm gonna throw out these summoner spells, or like all my abilities, and like I'm gonna get a couple auto attacks in, and you guys do the rest of the work. Take all the damage, deal with the rest of the team. I'm just gonna sit here. And like, to me, I want to be as impactful as possible.
Aside from just watching him, does some of these opinions come from playing him? Because I actually noticed, even in their career when they were considered like unbeatable at times, the two series you ever played against them, you did pretty well. Like there was the one at IEM where it was the semi-finals, and you were like one of the few teams who came close to beating them. Especially the first game was actually pretty close, the one that was thrown. And then at IPL 5, you had a series where you were one game up and then you lost in the lower bracket to them. Was actually playing him something that's made you think this way about him?
When I played him in those times, I remember specifically that Gosu Pepper, or he changed his name. He's Edward now. He's a god. That guy was a god for his time. He innovated so much stuff.
Wow, what was he doing?
I think he was one of the first, if not the first support player I've ever played competitively that didn't go gold per 10. He's like, fuck gold per 10. It's not important. I'm gonna smash you in lane. I'm gonna play Sona and have like 100 HP up on you, and I'm just gonna all-in you at like level 1 with an ignite or something. And at that time, it just blew my mind. I was like, supports can play aggressively in lane? Like, what the hell? Like, I'm so used to the AD carry taking the commanding aggressive position in lane, and then Ghost Pepper just walks up with Sona, and like I'm at half HP. And it really threw me off. And it made me think, like, I guess supports can be really impactful. When I looked at those games again, and I watched Genja, and I'm like, he didn't do shit. I got soloed by the support, and it was like pretty humiliating, but it made me understand a little bit more.
So when you were saying that you think EU doesn't have any good ADs, in theory, people in EU think that we have one who's really good now, called Creaton, this Polish guy. He was on Curse EU before. People say he's really good. Like, do you know anything about him? Have you seen him play before?
So I do research, and even though I don't watch EU LCS, I do watch for talent, because I like to watch good players and copy what they do better than me. So I watched Creaton. He doesn't do anything better than me, for one. He played really well. He was on alternate. and then he broke his wrist. Before he broke his wrist, he was playing well. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like EU structure, I've heard from EU players that they didn't practice very much for that season. It was the spring season, I believe, and he was just ahead of the time because he had worked so hard on alternate to get into the LCS, and he was just super practiced with his support, and he was playing well. I have to admit, he was playing Ezreal and Vayne. I thought he's played really well. Then he broke his wrist and he came back, and ever since I don't think he's been playing well at all. I think his laning phase got a lot worse, and I watched like 5 games of him, and I was like, he turned to garbage. I don't know what happened. I guess he's just out of practice from the wrist thing, so I don't really have anything to say about him, how he is right now.
Okay, I had a few other ADs I want to ask about. So an obvious one that everyone always asks you about is WeiXiao, because the strange thing is, I mean, you must know yourself, no matter how good the AD plays, if his team overall is not doing very well, people assume he must be really bad now as well.
Yep.
So in theory, WeiXiao could be like the best player in the whole world, but if he can't get to Worlds, no one's going to know him because no one watches China, okay?
Yep.
Is WeiXiao, has he really slumped? Has he dropped off in any way? Is that why Wild Elite isn't as good?
Yeah, World Elite is not a top tier team in China anymore. And I heard that a lot of that comes from, they're so popular that it came to bite them in the ass. They don't practice as much as they do fan services, do sponsor stuff, and they just don't focus on practicing as much. And a lot of Chinese ADs have surpassed WeiXiao. I think the way that he was playing before, he innovated the AD role. You know, everyone just kind of looked to him. What is WeiXiao doing? And he kind of got complacent, I feel, because other ADs like Uzi, and then there's Positive Energy. They have NaMei,
yeah.
And there's just so many Chinese ADs that are good. And I don't think WeiXiao stands out anymore.
So that's actually another one I wanted to ask about, NaMei, the guy who used to be called Devil.
Yeah.
Because actually, a lot of people don't watch China, okay, and they didn't really, some people didn't even know about Uzi really till this tournament. But I saw way back in like an AMA, someone asked you who your like favorite ADs were, and you listed like WeiXiao, Uzi, and you listed Devil when he was called that as well. And at the time, people might have thought, oh, since you're like part Chinese, you're just like trying to big up all the Chinese players. But this was even way back when he was in like the World Elite B team or whatever I think he was in. So was this guy really that good back then? How have we never heard of him?
Well, people don't hear of him because they don't watch LPL, and I watch LPL. I don't watch every game, but I will watch when people tell me, this guy, look at this guy, he's actually playing pretty well, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch this guy named Devil. Who the hell is this guy? And I watch him, like, he's pretty good.
How good is he like in the context of players we know? Like compare him to some other ADs that people watching this will know.
As much as, okay, so I asked Uzi, what do you think about him? Uzi says he's shit. I think he's a little bit under Uzi. If he came at Worlds, I think he'd smash pretty much everyone. I would say he's like, you know, my level. Under Uzi, but above like 90% of the ADs here.
When people talk, okay, you've actually said some complimentary things about Imp, that you think he's good, and he's obviously very good at Caitlyn. Is he like by far the best AD in Korea? Because it used to be, you know, people used to say also about Korea that they didn't have that many good ADs. Maybe because like their best team had like Woong in it or whatever. Yeah. But you know, they have players like Prey now. They have Imp, obviously. They have Piglet. What reasonable level do you think these players are at?
I think they're all about the same. Prey seems really lane dominant, and then Piglet seems very versatile. He can like play lane dominant. He can be like a good team fight oriented player. And then Imp just seems like he's only good on Vayne and Caitlyn, and that's really stubborn. I don't like that about Imp. Even though I see potential in him, he reminds me of how I was in Season 2, where I would only play Vayne, Caitlyn, and Ezreal. And I would never stray from my mains, because I was like, I'm just going to get really good at my mains. Whatever the hell that means, you know? Like, I don't know what I was thinking back then. And I don't like that kind of stubborn mindset. And I rate them all about the same. But Imp has potential if he just gets more versatile.
So when I was listening to you on the analyst desk, it was actually about Genja. You kept making this point over and over, right? That because at the time we looked and Corki was strong in this tournament. Okay, so everyone, you said, like as a rule, you know, you either have to play Corki or you have to play one of his counters. Like this is like how you thought the AD position should be played. Yep. Now, the reason this is interesting is that you would say it, because I've heard in the past from other people who watched you play AD that they actually thought you were quite stubborn, and that sometimes you would purposely play a counter pick against yourself, thinking like, well, that guy's shit, you know, I'll beat him anyway.
I do that all the time. Still do that. Okay, so I do think that no matter what position you play, mid, top, or AD, even support, you play the OPs, you play the meta, okay? And to me, the meta is there's obviously just going to be stronger champions than others. Right now, it's Corki, you know? And so you either play the most OP champions, or you play the counters to them. And that was my mindset during Season 2 for sure. My mindset during Season 2 was, I don't care what the meta is, I'm going to make the meta. Like, I'm going to make people think that Caitlyn, Vayne, and Ezreal are OP. And I, like, succeeded, kind of. But anyways, nowadays, being stubborn is just going to bite you in the ass. Like, Royal is really good because they're not stubborn. Because, like, White, their mid player, will be like, the enemy mid plays this? Cool, I'm going to play these counters. And I'm going to learn them, like, right now. I'm not going to, like, make myself play only one thing. My whole job is to win mid so that Uzi can carry the game. And that's, like, a very nice way to approach the game.
So even though you say that, like, you've bought into this philosophy, okay, I have to play either the OP or the counters. You say that, but that's very convenient when Vayne is viable, Caitlyn's viable. If something happens, okay, and Vayne is suddenly considered weak, won't Doublelift still play Vayne just because he's so good at it?
Yeah, I would still play, but I wouldn't play, like, every game. Okay. I think, damn, that's a hard question, because the champions that I play and that I've gotten really, really good at are champions that I believe will always be good. And if Riot, like, actually just the only way that they could ever be bad is if Riot just completely changes their kit to be, like, garbage. Oh, okay. Like, that's why I got so good at Ezreal, is because, like, if you look back to my best tournament performances of my, like, all-time, like, all-stars against Europe, like, IPL getting pentakills and stuff, like, a lot of my biggest plays were on Ezreal, and that's because I put so much time into getting super good at this versatile champion that, let's say I do get counterpicked, I'll still be able to have, like, high game impact. And no player can ever be at a competitive level on every AD. You just kind of have to pick 3 or 4 that you're going to be really comfortable on.
I got the sense from talking to people and doing interviews that people thought in the past that you were also stubborn in the sense that you only wanted to play the ADs that were mechanically demanding. So obviously it'd give you a chance to show off, but there's a degree to which if certain champions are OP but they're not mechanically demanding, maybe Doublelift wouldn't play those ones, and yet they might actually be more successful. Like, why is this? Is it just because you want to show off how good you are? You don't want to win on a champion that's easier?
I try super hard to learn Varus and Ashe, who are the least mechanically demanding ADs, and it took me, like, probably, like, 2 months of just trying to just, like, learn Ashe at a decent competitive level, like an acceptable level. And I think a lot of that has to do with my playstyle. Like, I've back when the best example I could give is back when Miss Fortune was OP and everyone played these wombo combo comps with Miss Fortune, Sona, Amumu and stuff. I never even touched the champion because she's not my playstyle. And, like, people will be like, that's a stupid cop-out, you can just learn the champion. Like, no, like, sometimes you actually just can't. Sometimes you're so used to playing one way, your brain just, like, cannot process, like, strategically how I'm supposed to play this other champion, and you just play, like, really fucking bad. And that's what happened. Yeah, I can agree with them that sometimes, like, I am kind of stubborn, but I think I'm stubborn for the right reasons.
Okay. So one of the other ADs that I had written down was Rekkles, and this is obviously good timing to do this because in theory he's going to be coming back now in Fnatic. So yeah. We had all the trash talk back at IPL 5, but now he's actually going to come back and we're going to finally get to see him as, like, a proper player in a proper team. You still think Rekkles is overrated?
Yeah, well, overrated because everyone is basically just, like, riding on him.
Why do they compare him to you?
Okay, that's dumb. So Rekkles is good, but when I hear about him and how he's stomping the EU amateur scene with his team, I feel like that's funny. Like, why would you compare the EU amateur scene to Worlds and, like, try to translate that to how well Rekkles would do at Worlds? That's dumb, because if you just look at the hard facts and the actual results, Pushu played really, really, really well this entire tournament. Like, he has super high KDA, he doesn't choke, he doesn't fuck up in teamfights, and his laning phase is weak, but you can work on that. And I think it's funny that people were like, Rekkles, like, he's gonna be the answer to their problems. Like, no, you have to train him to not be nervous on stage, you have to train him to be better than Pushu in lane, and then be better than him in teamfights, and, like, have all this international experience. I think it would be a mistake if Fnatic subbed Pushu out.
Okay. Actually, I had a few questions. This might sound off topic for my interviews, 'cause I don't usually do this, but it's actually about your setup in terms of how you play the game. Now, I couldn't track down the exact quote, but I heard something years ago when I did all my research along the lines of that you had some fucked up setup where you like rebound your mouse so that like you were just using attack move or something instead of actually like moving. Like most people just right click move. You actually rebound it to like attack move or something, and you just played with this style. Is this true?
Yeah, so I switched right click to attack move, and then to normally move, I had like a different button for it. It was like shift right click.
Okay.
So that's like my training wheels for learning how to orb block. And then at one time in some scrim, I attack moved a ward like 6 times, and I was like, maybe this isn't the right way to play. Like maybe I should actually learn how to click the champion, click behind my champion to move back, click the enemy champion, then click back. And I get this fucking question every day. Like on my Facebook, literally 10 times a day. The same question. How do you orb block so well? Like how do you kite? And I'm like, you right click the champion, then you right click behind you, and you right click the champion, you right click behind you. And like you just have to be fast and you have to be accurate, because if you fuck up, then you're gonna walk forward, instead of hitting the champion. But I did have fucked up setups for a while. A lot of it is just training wheels for shortcuts to being good, basically. Because I was always scared that I would do something stupid, so I'm like, oh, you can't fuck up when I'm just attack moving, I can't make any stupid plays.
So does that mean, like, when you play now and we see you do this sick kiting with Vayne and get out of all the team fights and kill everyone, is that 100% just click away, click back on the element? There's no attack move built in there as well where you're doing the shift attack move?
No, I play with default settings, and I think I have one small change. Oh, okay, so this is what... So in default settings, shift right click is actually attack move. So if you hold down shift right click, it's attack move. I actually eliminated attack move altogether. Okay. So
you couldn't even accidentally.
So I don't even accidentally attack move. So I just took that away. So I play with default and I take that away.
Okay. Do other ADs still use attack move, do you think? Like, 'cause I mean, it seems like unless you have super sick mechanics, some people are going to think it's easier to just spam it a bit as you're moving away, and get the timing of that instead of having to do the timing of back off and then back on.
Well, it's just become habit to me. I can't really tell, until it gets to a situation where attack moving is suboptimal. Like there's a minion between you two and you hit the minion instead. And like you still use attack, you still can hit A and then click on whatever for attack move, and you use that sometimes to like kill wards or like kill somebody who's juking you out. But I can't really tell with other ADs. All I know is I learned my way, and I practiced a lot on my way. So it's just natural to me.
Then does it also follow that Doublelift doesn't smartcast at all?
I smartcast with shift, so I hold down shift like about 60% of the game, like more than half. I just have that down, and I'll use that to like smartcast all my Ezreal stuff. But what I like about it is that it gives you the option of not smartcasting stuff, just in case you want the reticle to show.
But in general, most of your spells you don't smartcast them.
I think it's like most of them I do smartcast, but then if I need to like adjust ranges or something like that, or if I'm like shooting an Ash arrow and I want to see how fat it is, I'll not smartcast.
Oh, okay. But if like for ADs who want to know like how to do like all these sick pentakills where you're having to like kill this guy, it's better to just smartcast while you're doing the auto attacks, etc. Yeah,
it is. It cuts down on time spent like thinking about whatever. You just fucking hit the buttons and then they come out. So yeah, in terms of response time, smartcasting is the best way to play. I kind of do still have training wheels a little bit because sometimes I need to make sure like, is this the right range for the spell? Is this like how fat the spell is? So yeah.
When you're actually in these scenarios, okay, where you do like a pentakill, and so to do it, if you're Vayne, for example, sometimes that means you actually have to go towards the enemy instead of kiting away. You might have to like roll into them. It seems like it all happened, even as an observer, it seems like it's happening too fast. And you made a joke in a Travis interview that you like time slows down for you or whatever. Is there actually a degree to which you have to like train your mind to be like calm so that mechanically you don't just spam the buttons too much? Or like what is your approach when you're in these tense situations where like it's demanded like you be like mechanically perfect almost?
I wasn't joking when I think time kind of does in my head. Obviously time doesn't actually slow down. Like in my head time does kind of slow down. I guess I was just born with, like, I don't choke. I'm just like a clutch player, and like, there's a lot of professional league players, 2 are clutch players. And I think what that means is when the pressure's on, like, you thrive. You can pull out like miracles and stuff. So like I am like at home when the pressure's on me to like kite 4 people back and stuff like that, because I can kind of see ahead, and like I envision myself like outplaying these 4 people, and I know exactly where to move and exactly what to do. And yeah, I thrive under pressure, I think.
Okay, I have some questions now that are like kind of like how you perceive yourself as a person, okay? So no matter how well you play, unfortunately, even in team games where it is a team game, so like you need other people's help to win. People are always going to, even in real sports like the NBA and stuff, if someone doesn't win the championship, they'll always be considered like a loser, even if there was some amazing player who's like an all Hall of Fame type player. So people are going to look at you and say, how has Doublelift never won a LAN ever?
Yeah. I try not to think about that.
Does it bother you?
It does bother me a lot that I've never won a LAN, because I just want to win one and be like, damn, I was a champion. Like, look, this time, on this month, this day, I was the best in North America, or I was the best in the world. And I never had that. Like, as much as I shit on Chaox for like, haha, he's season 2 MVP, like, well, you can't argue with results. Like, he won. He won the playoffs, and he got the trophy, and he was like, hey, I'm the best in North America on this day. And like, it can always change day to day, but it's nice to have these kind of like memories. I don't have memories. That's why like all these seasons and all these times and tournaments kind of get blurred to me, is because they're all just losses. But like when you finally win something, well, I assume this is what it happens when you finally win something, because I don't actually know. I would just assume that it's like this really exhilarating, like memorable experience, and you can be like, I won this, and like that's so important for your career. And I think people in North America kind of know that, they like accept that. But it's hard for me to like justify, because my online persona is like I'm the best, and even though that's not how I am actually, I kind of have to live up to that. And it's hard to live up to this like hype and like, oh, Doublelift is so good and haha, everyone else is trash, all this stupid stuff. It's hard to like meet those expectations when you never win anything.
Because the thing is, okay, one of the things I always get just as a casual observer looking at players in teams, okay, I actually sometimes get mad on behalf of like star players, because when I think of someone like Froggen this year, for example, or even MadLife in Frost, because if you look at Frost, that you can see some of their players have dropped off and they aren't as good as they used to be. I sometimes get mad on behalf of the star player, because I feel like since in these particular teams, so you and your team, Froggen in his team and MadLife in his, these players are far and away the best player in their team. They're like godlike players at their positions. Yeah. So I always think, why doesn't that player be more like proactive and say like, guys, like I'm the best player in the team, so I think, I want players in the team who suit me. Like I want to have some say in who we recruit, or let's get rid of this guy because he doesn't work anymore. Like, why aren't these players more proactive? Because even though it's a team game, they in theory could have a lot of say over making sure that they had a good team and that they were still competitive. Why do you think, for you personally, that this hasn't been something that you've done, and why do you think players don't do this? Like, why doesn't Doublelift just demand tomorrow, I want this support to play with me and I want this jungler?
I think if I start making demands, I'll let all the bad shit that people say about me, like, haha, Doublelift's an egomaniac, he thinks he's so good but he's really not, all this stuff, I'll make that stuff come true, Okay. Like, I don't want to be the bad guy and just like tell my team this and that and tell them what to do, even because I'm not the smartest player on my team. I'm just the best player mechanically, but that doesn't translate to anything. Like you can be really good at like dribbling a basketball, but like you don't like make the decisions for your team. And I don't really want to be, because I'm young. Not only am I young, but I trust my teammates to make better decisions than me when it comes to like a team, and I trust my manager too, because now I have like a manager and a coach. I don't want to make those demands because I don't want to be the bad guy. I want my team to like me, and I want like trust and like respect within the team, which is really hard to build because this team is so old now that there's all this like built up animosity.
Because I'm going to reference this later, but in the CLG documentary, okay, there was a part where you're discussing when the Season 3 World Championship rolls around, can I see my team with Big Fat LP, with Voyboy, with Hotshot GG being the team who wins the whole World Championship? Like, are we going to be the ones there? Like, fuck no, there's no way that's going to happen. And the way you're talking, it sounded like what I was describing there. Like, you were so determined, like, in the next year, we're going to do whatever it takes, we're going to have to do anything it takes to become the best in the whole world. That really hasn't panned out in the last year. So has your thinking changed? Well,
just because I personally don't think something doesn't mean it's right. Like, I have like a lot of opinions, and I can't really justify them. That's just how I feel. Like when people ask me questions in interviews and stuff, like in the CLG documentary, they ask me how I feel, and I just tell them how I feel. But sometimes you can't like logically conclude something like this is the rationale, blah blah blah, this, and so now it's right. That's just my opinion, and I don't want to make decisions based on my just my feelings. So like I tell my manager all the time how I feel about my team, how I feel about this and that, and he just keeps that in mind, I guess. I don't want to be the one to make those kind of decisions, because it's fucked up because your team made you who you are. Like I always respect Chauster and Big Fat LP and Hotshot as people who I owe them, and maybe they owe me too, but I would never fuck them over.
One of the things is, okay, you mentioned it earlier actually, whenever people talk about these CLG lineups for the last 3 iterations, it's always like the potential. Whenever talking about the actual team that exists now, it's like, oh, the potential is that they could be so good, and unfortunately the potential never seems to actually show up. Okay, so what I want to ask you is this: does CLG still believe that you can just have people position swap and it just works? Because I mean, as far as I can tell, the only position swap that's ever worked for CLG was Chauster going from AD to support. Am I wrong?
You're right. I don't know. Okay, so
are we done with that era of doing that?
Yeah, that era was really dumb. So my conclusion on all of our failures has been potential is just a stupid word that people use to justify losing. Like when you lose, you can say like mechanically this and all we need to do is fix these problems, but at the end of the day, all that matters is results. And if you can't translate this abstract idea of potential into results, then it's meaningless. It's just like an excuse that you use to tell your fans, we lost this time, but our potential is so much better than theirs. Like, just look at our players. We have all these star players. We're going to be better than them at this time. And if you can't translate that into like a tangible, like a trophy, then it doesn't matter. None of that matters.
One of the perceptions that other people have of you, okay, so there's the people who hate you, and their main perception of how they'll explain why you're not good goes like this. Because they think the team, it's all protect the Doublelift all the time. They say, okay, well, if Doublelift looks that good, but his team's not winning, and that's when everyone's feeding him everything, they're giving him all the resources, it's almost like he's set up to look as good as he possibly can look, and then this is like the best case scenario for him. This is false?
That's completely false. I don't believe that you can like set up. It's not like I farm bot lane, then I come mid and I take Link's farm, and then I go top and I take like Hotshot's farm. I don't know if people got this horrible idea that like they let me have the kills. I get the kills because I do the most damage, or I like pick people off in 1v1s or 2v2 duels and stuff. It's not like my team in the middle of like a clusterfuck team fight, they're like, wait, leave him at 10% HP so Doublelift can get the kill. He needs to get farmed. Like, no, like I just got the kill because that's just what happened, and I got the farm because I outfarmed my opponent. And maybe like once in a while my jungler will give me double golems, but you see that shit all the time. Like in competitive play, the jungler will sacrifice his jungle camps for his laners. I'm not like the best example is like an Alex Ich who takes mid farm, rates wolves, mid farm, rates wolves. Like I don't do that. I just get farmed and I look good because I play good.
So then the other side is someone who's like a fan of Doublelift will say, no, CLG's been really bad these last year or so, and he just keeps them afloat. He's playing so awesome, and that's what even keeps them at a decent level. Is that wrong as well?
It's a team game, but I think if I left CLG, like just left. Let's say I died today, and CLG, okay. I just had a heart attack right now on this interview, and CLG had to find a new AD. I think CLG would be a significantly weaker team, but that's true for any position. Like if Link had a heart attack today, we would also be a significantly worse team. Like how much of a difference that is between like me dying and like Link dying, like that's just stupid to even think about, because it's a team game and you have 5 people.
So when we talk about the last 2 CLG lineups, okay, the spring one and the summer one of the problems with the potential argument is that when you were like you said, people denied that it was the protect the Doublelift strategy. Okay, so the problem with that is that means you're sort of saying no, there's more than one threat on this team. Yeah. So then the question is, well, who is the threat? Like Hotshot GG's not the threat. Link and Nien don't really seem to be like full-on threats. Like, at least other people perceive that it's always been the Protect the Doublelift team. Even the other teams, they think there's only one threat on that team, really. The others can sometimes maybe Link plays a decent champion here, but he's never like a full-on threat in the same way. Do you agree?
No, I think Link and Nien have played decent champions. Like, you know, it just depends on what the meta is. At the time, you know, Zac and Shen are played top lane. Okay, like, Nien will play Zac and Shen, and those aren't necessarily threats. You need damage coming from, at that point, your mid and your AD. And I always play high damage champions because I prefer them. And then I don't think, like, I hate when people refer to Orianna as a support mid. That's so stupid. Like, Orianna does a lot of damage. Just like pretty much every mid champion does a lot of damage, and it always comes down. This is why people say, like, oh, CLG only has one threat. It comes down to play. Because if Orianna misses everything, then she's not a threat. And just like if Lux misses everything, then she's not a threat. But I think Link plays well. And I see Link as, I can trust this guy to do as much damage in a team fight as me.
Okay, so when I ask you this about the setup of the last CLG, this summer one, I have like an unfair advantage in that I actually stayed with Monte Cristo for a while when he was just becoming the coach of CLG. And so I got to talk to him a bit about like his philosophy on how a team should play and what kind of things he'd want to implement in CLG. And the things that he told me about, I then watched the season thinking, oh, well, I can't wait for this stuff to kick in. You know, they're going to be really good when this starts happening. And at the end of the season, when you went out, it seemed like you were making some of the same mistakes that you made at the beginning of the season. Yeah. Like Monte Cristo stressed to me that the team has to understand like objective-based play. They have to know, like, okay, at this time we have to stop farming. Now we have to be split pushing over here, you know. Okay, split pushing isn't working. Now we team fight. Okay. But I saw one game where you built to split push, and then at the last second it looked like you just abandoned it and team fought, and then you lost the game. I mean, am I like exaggerating this? Does your team really struggle with objective-based play?
I think, yeah, because CLG's problem has always been we don't have a shot caller. And when we do have a shot caller, it doesn't work well in tournaments for us. So there's a lot of reasons why we always underperform at LANs, I think. This is just my feelings on it. I don't really have like tangible evidence or whatever, but I think we choke. Players on the team choke. Sometimes I'll choke, but like sometimes Lynx chokes, and then, you know, whatever. That's really bad for us, is because the way that we shot call is it's a democracy, and everyone has to participate in the democracy for it to work. If you just have one leader that does everything for you, and he shot calls well at that tournament, then you'll look so smooth. Doesn't matter, like, let's say your mid's playing bad that game. Doesn't matter. Okay, mid loses lane, no problem. Our shot calling is amazing. We're just gonna win. So we need to stray away from this democracy kind of thing. We need to have like a good shot caller, which has always been our problem because our roster does not include someone whose personality is fit for shot calling.
Because the problem with this, okay, I actually thought about this topic, the shot caller idea.
Yeah.
And if you go back in time, the only time you ever had someone who was like, I want to be the shot caller, is when you had Saint Vicious.
Yeah.
And the problem here is people in the team didn't agree. They thought, well, I don't want him doing the shot calling, like he'll do them wrong or something.
Yeah, we didn't really trust Saint to do the shot calling. I don't know how that would have panned out. God, that was so long ago, I don't even remember what our reasoning was. I think we were just kind of spiteful of Saint at that time. I didn't participate in the argument, by the way. I was over it. I went to go take it. When people talk about that horrible blow up about the shot calling incident, I was taking a shower.
Okay. Because on this same topic, though, I once heard it described like this. I think it was someone talking about chess. They said something like, "It's better to have a bad plan than to have no plan."
Yes. So oh my God, I hear this so much, and it's so true. Okay, it's better to have 5 people listen to the wrong call than to not have a call, and that's so true because no matter what, if everyone's on the same page, you can bail out of your plan. It's not like chess where if you fuck up, it's over, right? In League of Legends, it's such a forgiving game. You can just look at like every competitive game that's ever been played. You can make mistakes and you can always come back. So let's say you make a bad move. You'll make a better move the next time. And like, as long as your entire team is thinking the same thing. And the problem is in our democracy, 4 people participate, 1 person's in like La La Land, and then it just gets fucked up, you know? And another problem is in the midst and pressure of a tournament, nobody wants to make the wrong call.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to shoulder the responsibility of making a game-losing call.
Because the thing is, I also watched some of the scrims that you guys did where you had the voice on because you were all streaming. And I was really confused because when that summer lineup that you had with Nien, Tonso and Link and those guys, I thought to myself, by watching the streams, oh, Big Fat LP must be the shot caller because he was the one who was like giving commands like, okay, now do this. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Chauster was talking a lot. And I heard later on in interviews, oh no, Chauster's the shot caller. And that really confused me because I noticed in these scrims, Chauster never actually gave any shot calls. He would just ask questions like, can we do this now? Can we do that? And it sounded almost like he was asking someone else what the shot call was. Is that off base? Is the era of Chauster the shot caller still alive?
We like to say that Chauster's our shot caller. I would say that Chauster is the strongest voice in our democracy. I think if you ask the rest of my team how CLG works, they'd say Chauster is the shot caller, and we are just opinions or sources of information for him. But what it really is I think we are still a democracy at heart with 5 people making calls. And Chauster's just the strongest voice, and he's the one who asks the most questions and makes the most definitive decisions.
Because the thing is, okay, to go back in time a little bit, when we think about that era when you had St. Vicious in your team, I think this kind of shows like a difference in philosophy to how you want a team to be. Because from following Counter-Strike for a lot of years, there was 2 sorts of ways you could go about building a team, okay. You could either just build on paper the players you thought these players will fit together and will be really good, and that team might be really good, but it also might not get along personality-wise. So then you have to decide, right, how do I weigh up like success and like enjoying my teammates and getting along with them? And if you're really lucky, maybe you find a team where you get along and you can be successful. But otherwise, there are some players where I could tell, even if they wouldn't admit it, that in their careers they'd sort of decided like, listen, even if I come second or third, I'd rather come second or third with like people I like than have to play with this asshole who I don't want to like play with. Okay, so the problem is we look at the period since St. Vicious left the team, and you haven't really had that much success. Like it's tapered off, gone down a bit. Okay, but now you're playing with more and more and better people that like you get along with a lot better and you like their personalities. That team that had St. Vicious in, okay, by all accounts, had all these arguments all the time, and even in games, no one really like was the shot caller. Everyone's just arguing, no, don't do that, you idiot. And we've seen all these videos of it. Yeah. But at the same time, in game, wasn't that team really good?
Yeah, at the time, I don't know how that would have translated, because I feel like even though, yeah, you can have the best roster and you can hate each other, but building animosity is like super bad. And it's like, okay, so like for example TSM, I don't think they'll be really if they keep the same roster with like all these problems that they have where there's so much just tension and like kind of, I'm sure there's like little passive aggressiveness between the teammates. It won't succeed in the long run. You can't sustain that for like years and years, because it'll just build up inside you. And CLG, it built up fast because we have a lot of opinionated, aggressive people on the team. And I think like being friends and is like really important, because if you look at Cloud9, I always look at them because they're the best in North America and I know them the most. And Vulcan, they're like arguably second best in North America. They get along really well and they don't have the best players and they have weak links on their team, but they respect each other. And not only do they respect each other, but when they lose, they can learn from it instantly and they can get the most out of the loss, because you're not going to get mad at your teammates. You're friends with each other, and if somebody fucks up, they fucked up and they'll do better next time. And that's the best way to approach it. But on CLG, we do it a lot differently.
Because I actually have a good example of this where, okay, when Moscow 5 was winning everything, people assumed, who were just fans, oh, they must all get along really well, maybe they're friendly and stuff. Mm-hmm. But actually, I heard from talking to the Moscow 5 members that what they would do was, some of them really didn't get along, so they just kind of had a mentality like, we'll separate like business from like friendship, okay? Yeah. And so when we have to practice, we'll spend time, but then the second practice is over, like, I don't want to talk to you till like next week or whatever. And that's actually the reason why they never did get like a team house or never went to Korea for any period of time. So when I think of that lineup with St. Vicious, if your team had never gone to Korea and you just stayed in NA and you only have to practice online, then go to the LAN and meet each other or whatever, could that have worked? Did it always have to blow up? Did Korea like make things just exaggerated into how bad they were?
I think if we stayed in NA with that lineup with Saint, we would have done really well. I think I finally would have got picked up like a LAN victory. That's really important to me, by the way. But like M5, at some point it blows up, and you just can't sustain it. Like, if you're just going to have so much hatred within the team, I think it's important to be friends first and teammates second, because you have to be motivated. Every day you should wake up and be like 10 hours of practice with my best friends, basically, with my teammates, and like people I enjoy being with, and it's a pleasant experience. I'm so motivated, like, let's do this. It shouldn't be like a daily grind, because I know that's how it was for me during the season. During like season 3, I woke up every day and I was like, I don't like this. This is not what I want my life to be. And so I would just sit there and I would grind this practice out. And like, I would still improve and I would still get better, but I used to be miles ahead of my competition, and now I'm this much ahead. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm less motivated now than I was before.
When we talked earlier, and I mentioned, like, what did you think of Chaox, knowing how good Xpecial is now, and we talked about some other bot lanes, like Genja and Edward. When you've been in these periods where you don't have a good support, or it just doesn't work their style with yours, do you ever feel jealous when you look at some of the other ADs and they have like an awesome set? Like, I mean, there's certain supports around the world who we know, if you just have them on your team, it seems like it's going to work.
I get jealous a lot, yeah. I'm a jealous guy, I guess.
Are there any who stand out? Like, you look at them and like, oh, I wish I had that kind of a support, or that kind of
I don't even know who CJ Frost's AD is anymore, because they changed it so much. Okay. From like Hermes to Space now, yeah. And I think they changed Space. I don't actually know 100%. But yeah, I am jealous of whoever gets to play with MadLife, because he gets held down by his AD a lot. And I don't know if it's like reciprocated. I don't know if he like looks at my sport and he's like, I'm so jealous, like I wish I had Doublelift. Like, I don't think he does that.
I don't think so.
But I hope he does, you know, like in my dreams he does that.
From thinking about how you talked about some players, you described it before, like, oh, you're not the smartest player, you're just the most mechanically dominant, yeah. And so you were trying to kind of make it sound like, you know, that's a strength, and then being smart's a strength, and maybe being a good team player is a separate strength. But actually, when I think about your persona, whenever you talk about other players, it sounds like you just rate them mechanically, and if they're not good mechanically, then you're like, he's shit, like I'd kill him. But meanwhile, there are players who are successful who aren't mechanically that brilliant, you know. Is it really the case that, like, you don't... Do you think you give people enough credit who are good players but without being mechanically good? Do you think certain roles you just have to be mechanically good, otherwise you're by default not a good player?
I think every role you should be... Okay, so, like, I rate people by both mechanics and making good decisions, decision making. And I see a lot of people who just choose... when presented with 4 different options, they will choose the suboptimal option instead of the best one, because there is always going to be like a best option in like a given situation. Like, I see that a lot, and I rate players pretty harshly, because I hold them to the standard of the best player in the world.
Okay. Like
right now, let me think about this. How can Reginald claim to be a good mid when there's Faker? He can't anymore, because now there's Faker. Like, if Reginald was the best mid in the world, then he'd be like, yeah, I'm really good. But how can you say you're good? So when I watch these different scenes and like I compare different players, I always just see like, wow, this other player makes so much better decisions than you. Their mechanics are so much better. They're so much more clutch than you are. You suck.
Well, can you give me an example then of a player who mechanically isn't the best, but his decision making is really good?
Pushu.
That's him.
That's him. He's not mechanically good. Like, he's not good enough to play. I would never say he's the best AD, but because he falls so far behind in CS and he misses so many skill shots and he does dumb shit with like his summoner spells a lot. But man, does he make good decisions. Like, he knows which AD to play in every situation. He always picks the best AD for the right situation. He makes all the right decisions, and when he dies, it's because he got mechanically outplayed. But I'm sure that the decision that he made is the right decision when I watch Pushu play. And that's why his KDA is so high. Is because the only times he dies is when he like fucks up and misses skill shots, or like he gets, you know, misses a flash. Something like that.
So when I watched that CLG documentary that finally came out, I actually had some questions about some statements you made in it, because in the context of today, they sound kind of crazy, okay?
Yeah.
So you actually said before the tournament began, the Season 2 World Championships, you actually said that if your cheese worked, then it would work against every team and you would win the whole tournament. Yeah. Now, bearing in mind you went out in the group stage, can you please explain what this means?
Well, we were really confident in our cheese, okay? This documentary was filmed during Season 2, okay. Just for a disclaimer. we thought our cheese would work against any team because no matter how many times you see it, there's not a lot. There's only like one course of action that you can do to counter. And I don't exactly remember what it was because it was
split pushing, I believe. If you were talking about the proxying, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I think you even said in the documentary the only counter is to send 3 people in another lane and just push that wave up or something.
Yeah. So there was only one course, and we thought that even if you saw it 3 times, you would never be able to formulate what the counter was, and even if you did, it would formulating the counter. So like you'd have to formulate the counter on the fly with no practice, and you just do it that day in World Championships. There's a lot of pressure on you, and it throws you out of your comfort zone. Whereas for us, we are being proactive with our strategy. They are being reactive with their strategy, and that puts you at a severe like disadvantage, just like strategically, because as soon as you're in a reactive position, we have all the power to do what we want, and then you have to react again, then you have to react again and again. So we thought that our cheese was really, really smart and put us at a huge advantage against every team. Clearly that wasn't the case, but that's what we thought.
When the 2 strategies that you outlined, okay, was the proxying the waves at the level 1, and then the other one was this TP promote strategy that you, in this documentary, you guys talk about this as though you've like fucking cracked the atom and like you've got the new A-bomb and no one else can possibly deal with it. Like, exactly. Were you mistaken with this? Was there any truth to it? Do you think it really could have worked?
I think if we were equal skill to our opponents, we would win with our strategy because it's superior at the time, and it threw everyone off. At that time, like cheese, like that shit's unheard of, you know? Like, what is cheese? How do you can play at that time? Standard was literally standard. Like 99.9% of games are played standard. No lane swaps, nothing, just complete standard. So yeah, we did kind of crack the atom, but we handled cracking the atom pretty badly because we just didn't have the skill to match up.
I mean, when you say amazing, like obviously Europe has a lot of mid players as well. Is he like the best mid by far?
Oh no, damn, Europe is so crazy. I think if any of the top 8 European mids came to America, like if Bjergsen or like Nukeduck came to America, they would crush. And
even Reginald?
Yeah, they would crush Reginald. Like, because European teams they're just so mid-centric. You can solo queue and talent breeds talent. That's what I think. So like when in European solo queue, you can queue up and you'll play Ocelot one game in Diamond 1. Then the next game you'll queue up and you'll play like Bjergsen because he's practicing a new champion or like whatever. And so eventually then you'll be really good at mid. And then now that there's like this guy who's been trained by Ocelot and Bjergsen in solo queue, then you'll bump into some random guy who's like Diamond 2, and then it'll just snowball that way. And we don't have that in North America because not only do we not take solo queue seriously, but like most competitive players don't even play solo queue, and that is a huge problem because like we don't have anyone to blame for lack of talent except for ourselves. So like when I think about, wow, maybe roster change, who can we get to play this X role? It's actually just like completely our fault, because if we had just played more solo queue, maybe we would have inspired some jungler to play and like get really good.
Because the thing is, you're saying all these nice things about the mids in Europe now, and you've said all nice things about Pushu and other players, but you were one of the people before this tournament who was saying, oh, you know, yeah, we're not as good as Korea, NA, but, you know, Europe's weak, we'll smash Europe, all this stuff. A lot of NA pros said it, you know, Crumbs said it, Batoy said it, Saint said it, yep. Reginald probably said something like that, I'd imagine. Why were you wrong? In what ways hadn't you anticipated that Europe would be better? Are you better than NA?
I think you can't argue with the results. Europe is better than NA. Yeah, you can't argue anything except for results, I think. So yeah, I was wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong, by the way. Like, I think people have this horrible misconception of me that I'm so cocky. Like when I talk shit and stuff, like I always admit when I'm wrong. So
what was surprising about Europe then that you hadn't anticipated?
I think the most surprising thing was really just how far ahead their mids are from the rest of the world. Like, I think Peke, even though he had a shitty series against Royal, is Faker level. Because Faker will have bad games just like Peke has bad games. And damn, are their mids fucking good. Like, they're just so good. They're versatile, they play everything, they're just amazing. And I thought that their bot lanes, even though that I didn't think that they were Korean level, but they are like, they can hold up to Korean teams. They can. They can't hold up to Wildturtle and Xpecial. Wildturtle and Xpecial crush bot lane every game. And that's why I think NA bot lanes, specifically us and TSM, were really good. But
So you really think if TSM had been in Group B, they'd crush the Fnatic, the Gambit bot lane?
Oh, hell no. Oh, yeah, the bot lane, yeah. But in terms of team play, and in terms of... We thought that Europe was just bad, because the way that they play the game is so inferior. But it turns out that it doesn't matter what way you play the game. This is what I learned from this World Championships. It doesn't matter what way you play the game as long as you're good at it. And Europe is really good at what they do. Just because we look at it and we see that it's strange and we think that it's inferior to our way, that's so stupid. They play their way better than we play North American style.
So when you were at the analyst desk, in the first few sets of group games where you were having to do your predictions, you picked Vulcan to beat like all the European teams basically. What happened there? Was Europe that much better? Was Vulcan worse? What would lead to such a disparity?
It's definitely both. So like, not only is Europe, did they completely surprise me because I thought that their way of playing was just stupid, but I thought Vulcan's their scrim partner, right? For like a long time leading up to the Worlds, and we thought that they're really good at getting an early game lead, which they are. They always get ahead early game for the most part. We thought that they had fixed their problem of being Vulcan throw bargains and like not being able to close out the game. Well, it turns out that we had too much faith in them. I had too much faith in them, I should say, because I thought they had fixed it. They didn't fix it. They have the same problem every time, every game.
Because there's another issue, okay? Another thing that you said in bold statement on the analysis desk, you said that Xsmithy is better than Dandy. Now, the problem with this, okay, let me just set up the context. Xsmithy was having to play in a group that has Cyanide, Diamond Prox, and Dandy, okay? Yeah. So he's going to be tested directly as a jungler. What would you explain about, was your evaluation off on Xsmithy?
I said that he was just as good, if not better. Okay. The better part was just Troll Monty.
Okay.
Like I said, I like to exaggerate. Okay, but he is just as good. I stand by that statement because during the group stages, I always thought that Danny was a good player and he makes good decisions. But Smithy has a different style and he makes just as good decisions within his style. And yeah, I never saw Smithy as a big problem. He's a versatile player, he's mechanically good, and he has this weird Smithy style that's a cross between like Meteos and like, he doesn't farm as much as Meteos, but he doesn't gank as much as Cyanide, but he's somewhere in between. I called it like the signature Smithy style, and he's really good at it. He makes good decisions.
So earlier on, actually, you were talking about the Cloud9 Fnatic game, and you said that Fnatic crushed Cloud9 in all three games, I think you said.
Yeah.
So some people have complained, okay, if Cloud9 had gotten to play, you know, like one of the other three teams they could have. So the other teams were SK Telecom, OMG, or Gambit. What would the results have been like for Cloud9 versus those three teams?
They would only have won against Gambit. And even then, it would have been close because I think Cloud9 underperformed, and like their biggest weakness has always been that their lanes suck. And in
how do they win if their lanes suck?
In North America, their lanes are actually decent. None of their lanes are so outclassed that they're going to get crushed. If that makes sense, you have to have enough skill disparity in your lane for you to lose hard enough for it to be impactful. If there's this much skill disparity and you lose by 10 CS or 5 CS, whatever, who cares? If there's this much skill disparity and it's High versus Peke, then Peke is going to carry and your mid laner is the reason that you lost the game, right? So I think it exposes a lot of their weaknesses like this tournament because North America is just not good enough to crush lane and be like carry against Cloud9. So, but on the international stage, when like you have fucking Alex Ish and Peke, I think it would have made a big difference.
Because actually one thing that I have as a question is, I always wondered, so when Edward actually came to Curse, and you brought Loco Doka in before, I didn't understand, when you kept saying there wasn't enough talent in NA to fill these positions that we won't fill, okay, why did you never consider just getting someone from Europe? I mean, in Europe, we actually have excess mids. Like, there was a guy called Extinct who used to be quite a good mid, and he played top lane for NIP this season. Tabs, who's an AD now, he used to play mid. There's actually like too many mids to even put in all the teams. Like, if you want one, you could have one.
Who's that guy who was on Acer, who I said was really...
Citizen Wayne?
Yeah, that guy's a god.
He had to retire because he couldn't even get in a team.
Exactly. There is excess mids in Europe, but...
So why doesn't CLG just fly one in and then there you go?
Because like you have to have some loyalty to your mid and believe that they can be better than Peke or better than Alex Ish.
Okay.
I believe that Link can be better. It's gonna take him some time, but yeah, I believe in that. Like, I think it also a big difference is like not only would they have to be willing to come to North America, but there would be a big cultural difference. They just like start living with you and talking to you in their weird ass accent, and like you'd have to get to know them and stuff. It's almost like going on a blind date. You just fly them over and then you just like, hello, like this is our first time meeting. Hello, Citizen Wayne, welcome to CLG. You know, you're not sure if it's going to work. It's always a gamble.
This season, you guys made Monte Cristo look really bad because hear me out, okay?
Yeah.
So he comes in and he's watched all these Korean games. So people are thinking he's going to give them all the insight. They're going to have an edge over teams who don't have an analyst, okay, like him. Then your team for a while, you hover around like third spot in the league for so long. You're on like the cusp of maybe doing better, okay?
Yeah.
Then in the last week, things go to shit, and somehow you manage to finish 6th overall.
Yeah.
Now, finishing 6th overall means that people are going to say, and then you go below the top 4 of the actual playoffs. People are going to say, as a criticism of Monte Cristo, well, if that's like what they did with him giving them all the coaching advice, then how bad would they have been without? Or how bad was his coaching advice? What can you say to this?
Monte Cristo's coaching advice is made like maybe there's no way we could have dropped lower than 6th, right? And like there's not a lot of situations that are worse than not like making it to Worlds, but we would have been way worse without Monty's advice. Like we would have been way worse off, because having a coach is so important, because like when it comes down to these big hard decisions that your team needs to make, and like making sure that your team's on the same page and thinking the same thing, if a person like me, let's just say I tried to do what Monty does, they think I'm cocky, they think I'm just trying to control the team for my own personal benefit so that I can look better, or like I have my own personal reasons for it. Monty is an outside source. He's completely objective, and so he helps our team a lot in terms of strategy. I just think every team is getting better so rapidly that it's hard to tell like Monty's impact. He's keeping us competitive. Without him, we would be like continually sloping down. At least like I feel like towards the end we were kind of making a comeback. We were like kind of like, oh, maybe we can make Worlds. Without him, it's like zero fucking chance we can make Worlds.
So ignoring the teams that these ADs play in that I'm about to mention, okay, who is the top 5 mids in the world, ADs in the world right now, including yourself? Who's your top 5?
I think Uzi's better than me, but he's the only AD I've ever seen who's better than me. I think it's Uzi, me. I gotta think about this. Uzi, me, and then like NaMei, who is on Positive Energy. Turtle's actually good.
So Turtle's better than Imp?
Yeah, I think Korean ADs fucking suck. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
And I can't even think of number 5 because it's so top. It's so hard to list them. Are you asking me to list them top 5 in order?
Sure.
I can't even list them. All I know is that top 2 is Uzi and then me.
Yeah.
After that, everyone is just world class. I can never tell because everyone is so. They're all the same level. They're all just world class ADs like Imp, Piglet, Wildturtle, NaMei. These guys, they have their strengths. They have good games. They have bad games, and if you kind of average them out, they're all together.
So in that documentary, you made this bold statement about, with this team, we can't possibly be the world champion. It sounded like you were determined, like, next year it's going to be the case.
Yeah.
So this is the Season 3 World Championship. We're doing this interview out now. Season 4 World Championship. Doublelift will finish top 3. True or false?
Is there even a top 3? I think it's top 4.
Top 4 then?
True.
Well, why do you say that? You really believe it?
Yeah, I really believe it because I'm done with this. I'm done with the word potential. Like I used to believe in that for 2 seasons straight, potential, but now all I know is what's really important is respecting your team and producing results. That's what's really important, because and respecting your team translates into producing results, because if there's no like tension and all you're doing is focusing on being friends, having fun, like being better, like how can you lose? Like how could Cloud9 lose? They can't lose. Like next season Cloud9's just gonna be, they're not gonna be as dominant, but they're gonna be just as good as they are now, because when they have a problem, they can solve that problem so easily. And we're going to do everything it takes to do that, to make sure that we don't fall into the same hole that CLG always falls into.
So for my last question, I always do a hypothetical, okay? But usually I do it from the perspective of when it's like a foreign player, a non-Korean player, it's always trying to make like a good team from foreigners or something, someone who could compete with the Koreans and the Asians and stuff. But since, you know, Doublelift says everyone's trash, I want to go the other way. I want Doublelift to make a team where it's all, you can be in it, but the other 4 players have to be, no, actually, you can't be in it, okay. So for this version, you have to make a team. The sole purpose of this team is it's Asian players, and we're going to make a team that on paper could work, like ignore language differences, only Asian players, and this is going to smash Europe and NA so hard that they couldn't even compete. This is like the team to destroy everyone else. So what would your team be like this? Just the perfect team of Asians to just blow everyone away.
Oh shit, that's so easy. Okay, Flame.
So Flame over Shy, anyone else? Just
yeah, Flame's fucking beast. Because he carries his team. His team sucks. Think about it. Captain Jack and Ambition. Ambition is so over. If Ambition made it to Worlds, people would smash him into the ground and he would just like be sad. And then Captain Jack sucks. But anyway, so it would be Flame, Bengi, Faker, MadLife, Uzi. It'd be like 4 Korean players and Uzi. Yep.
So even though you've hyped up all the Chinese players, you only like the Chinese ADs?
They play Protect the AD. Their entire strategy revolves... Royal's entire strategy revolves around Uzi. If Uzi died today and like some other this much less skilled AD replaced him, it would have this much impact on the team. Uzi's that good.
So what would the reason be for Bengi then? Why pick him?
Because Bengi and Faker would work together to shit on everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good reason. Okay, at the end of the interview, do you have anyone you want to thank or say hello to?
Yeah. So thanks to my sponsors, Razer, Zubu, iBuyPower, NZXT. Shout out to my fans, because yeah, I haven't been doing a lot recently, and like people probably forget about me, you know. I don't want people to forget that I'm gonna shit on everyone during season 4, and like I made a lot of mistakes during season 3 where I let people catch up, but I'm not gonna let people catch up anymore. Like I used to be this much ahead, and I'm gonna be this much ahead during season 4 again. Shout out to Riot, and you should follow me on Twitter and Facebook if you haven't already. That's it.